Thank you, Michael. It is now 3 o'clock. I will call the Government Oversight meeting of 6-2 to order. Michael, will you call the roll?
Yes, Chair Brown.
Don Brown voting remotely from Washington Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Committee Chair Hall.
Commissioner Hall voting remotely, Roseville, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Veronica Kleinfeld voting remotely from East Point, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Romano.
Commissioner Romano, District 4, Sterling Heights, present and participating remotely in Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kraft.
Commissioner Phil Kraft attending remotely from Chesterfield Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Commissioner Wallace.
Commissioner Wallace attending remotely from Mount Clemens, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Song.
Commissioner Song attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Don Van Sickle attending remotely, Sterling Heights, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Zinner.
Commissioner Barb Zinner attending remotely from Harrison Township, Michigan, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Matuzik.
Commissioner Matuzik participating remotely from Clinton Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Farrington.
Commissioner Farrington attending remotely from Utica, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Commissioner Sabatini attending remotely from Macomb Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
And Commissioner Nard.
Commissioner Nard attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
And that completes the roll.
Thank you, commissioners. Next, please rise and we will pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is adoption of the agenda.
Romano adopts the agenda.
Nard, second.
Motion by Commissioner Romano, so seconded by Commissioner Nard. All in favor, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item is approval of minutes dated May 5th, 2021. This motion in order.
Motion by Sabatini.
Support Van Sickle.
Motion, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by voting aye.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Michael. Next item is public participation. This is the first opportunity for public participation. Is for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on an item which is on today's agenda. We have a second public participation opportunity later, during which comments can be made on issues other than those on today's agenda. For those planning to speak during public participation, please be advised, according to Rule 21 of the adopted board rules, personal attacks, coarse, derogatory language, and cursing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such a language will be removed from the meeting. Anyone wish to speak on agenda items only during the first public participation? Board? Staff?
Chair, we have Pamela Lideline in the chat box.
Pamela, floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Pamela Lideline, 17961 Birch Drive, Macomb Township. I'm speaking to the agenda item that states a resolution to support of the Second Amendment. I'm assuming that means that the sanctuary county part of that. I just want to say that gun safety laws are meant to protect American citizens and make for a safer community for all. Gun violence in this country kills 100+ people a day. That is in excess of 36,500 deaths each year. Another 200 plus are injured every day. The vast majority of voters support background checks on all gun sales. 85% of voters nationwide support red flag laws. As I stated at previous meetings concerning this issue, it is up to the Supreme Court of the United States to determine constitutionality of laws, not Macomb County Board of Commissioners. All of you have sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States as part of your oath of office. Restating your oath in the form of this resolution is unnecessary and redundant. It is also been stated by a member of the Board of Commissioners in prior discussions that Sheriff Wickersham is not in favor of this resolution and plans to continue to enforce existing laws. Please consider the ramifications of such a resolution. Macomb County Board of Commissioners has sworn to protect our county and has an obligation to carry out the law, not obstruct it. Common sense gun laws are designed to protect the public and decrease the number of homicides, suicides, and unintentional shootings. Voting for this resolution is voting to ignore laws that have been deemed constitutional in state and federal laws or courts. This board voted unanimously to honor the victims and survivors of gun violence by declaring this Friday, June 4th, as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Supporting a resolution that would tell victims and survivors of gun violence that in Macomb County, existing gun safety laws will not be enforced negates the honor afforded those who have been traumatized by gun violence. Do you really want to send the message to the citizens of Macomb County that state and federal laws related to their safety will no longer be enforced? That felons convicted of violent crimes will no longer be required to have background checks to purchase a firearm? That laws designed to keep guns from people who are known to be a danger to themselves or others will not apply in Macomb County? Please vote no on this resolution and preserve the constitutional rights of all citizens. The Second Amendment gives the right to bear arms, and this right remains for law-abiding citizens. Until the laws are changed, Macomb County is required to follow them. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, anyone else?
Chair, we have Carmi Finn.
Carmi Finn, you have the floor.
Sorry about that. Thank you. My name is Carmi Finn. I live at 32631 Desmond in Warren. And first of all, I'd just like to say the Second Amendment is already enshrined in the Constitution across the whole country. So it's pretty unnecessary to make yet another resolution about it. Having said that, however, I would like to just reiterate one thing that Pam said. The vast majority of Americans support common sense gun laws that help keep our families safe. A huge majority of Americans find it appalling that 100 people per day are killed by guns, with hundreds more injured. And they are in favor of laws that will reduce those numbers while still protecting constitutional rights. Macomb County officials are sworn to uphold the constitutions of the United States and of Michigan. I believe it is safe to assume that they will do this, are already doing this, without specific resolutions demanding that they do so for each individual section of these constitutions. We know that these Second Amendment sanctuary statements do not have the force of law, so passing this resolution does not accomplish anything to affect anyone's Second Amendment rights. Here's what passing this resolution would actually do. It would suggest that laws enacted by our legislature are or may be unconstitutional, despite certain knowledge that this is not the case, resulting in citizens' confusion about our laws and distrust of our legal system. It would require Macomb County officials to be interpreters of U.S. and Michigan constitutional law. It would undermine confidence in the Macomb County Sheriff's Department. The department needs public trust to work effectively. That confidence and trust that our Sheriff's Department currently enjoys will be eroded if residents doubt whether county officers will enforce Michigan's laws. Passage of this resolution will not benefit any of Macomb County's residents. I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, anyone else?
Yes, we have Joel Rutherford.
Joel, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, County Commissioners. Thank you, Committee Chair Hall and Chair Brown. I'm Joel Rutherford. I live at 5683 Storrow Court in Warren, Michigan. Just to give you a little background, I'm retired active duty Air Force. I'm also retired Department of Defense as a civil service employee. I wanted to speak on item 7A, resolution 2021-6564 in support of a Second Amendment resolution. As people have said before me, it's already in the Constitution. I know when I enlisted in the military, we raised our hand and said that we were there to support the Constitution. The idea was basically to ensure rights for everybody. I don't understand what good this resolution is going to do. You're not going to change anything. It's not going to make the laws any different, but it sends a signal to people that what you want really is Macomb County to be separated from like the rest of the state or the rest of the country. Right now, we've had, as of May 28th, we've had 225 mass shootings. I think by this time we have even more. More than 17,000 have died from gun-related violence in the US. We're 32nd highest rate of deaths from gun violence worldwide. We're more than 8 times as high as Canada from 2018, 3.96 per 100,000 versus 0.47 per 100,000 in Canada. It seems like this resolution is looking for a problem that needs to go in the other direction. It's not that I'm against anybody's Second Amendment rights, but I think that this fetishism that we seem to have with guns needs to change. We need to be worried about lives, not guns. We need to do something to basically have laws passed that are sensible, that work for people, and that make people safer. At this point, we have to find a way for red flag laws that people that have mental illness problems and other things, that it's not so easy to get a gun. It's something to me that with all that's gone on with where we're at in the country, we have to be able to do something different than this. And I'm sorry, I'm for the Constitution, but I'll never be for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Staff? Do we have anybody else?
Joseph Hayes, Clinton Township.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Hello. I'd like to thank the Commission, Board of Commissioners for attending this meeting and taking the time to address something that is often misunderstood. The Second Amendment is in our Constitution. It is also in our Michigan Constitution. And in those documents, pretty much closely, it says, December 15, 1791, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And unfortunately, people want to put more gun laws on an already growing book. And it's over 400 pages of gun laws that are existing. The problem that I see here is that we're attacking our right to keep and defend ourselves with firearms. Some people have thought that we're just mirroring or re-imaging what's going on already in our Constitution, but in my instance, it is just letting the rest of Michigan, which there are of about 50% as of August 2020, 50% of the counties, a little more than, are already gun sanctuary or Second Amendment counties, which just reinforces the fact that what we want is to not be infringed by our federal government, our state government, and our local municipalities. If we have problems with criminals having guns, it's because criminals don't pay attention to gun laws. They just go get them. People have to realize that understanding what criminals do with guns is the reason people like myself and everyone in my little community wants to make sure that we don't get impeded on our gun rights by any government process, whether it be federal, county, state, or local. If people don't like the idea that guns can protect someone, I suggest that they really look into the fact that our founding fathers did not use guns to hunt deer or feed their families. They used them to protect themselves from government oppression. Now, I don't say that lightly, but I do say it in a sense that if someone wants to take away my right to defend myself, my property, or my family, then I do have a big problem with that. I'm not going to count on police assistance when 2 seconds is quicker than 2 minutes in my own world, in my house, my home, and my property. So that being said, I'd like to thank you guys again for taking time to discuss this issue and bringing it to the public forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff?
Yes, we have Christy Hay up next.
Hello, this is Christy Hay. I am of Washington. We live in Washington Township, and I am here to request you not to pass this resolution. It has no legally binding effect. There are no, I hate to use the word posturing, but all it is expressing something that is already protected. We're a military family. We are a gun owning family. We are not against ownership of guns. My husband grew up hunting. He served his country. It's not that we're opposed to guns. It's that the militia is to be well regulated, and it's okay to have regulation on gun use. And there's no reason to have a resolution like this. It's a pointless resolution. The Second Amendment is the law of the land, and there's no reason to have a regulation like this. It's it's just not a necessary something, and it doesn't reflect the will of all the residents of Macomb County for sure. That's about what I have to say. So,
Thank you, Christy.
thank you.
Staff, anyone else?
Chair, we don't show anybody else waiting in the chat box.
I've got a Paul Driscoll has raised his hand.
Yes.
Paul, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor.
Okay. I appreciate you guys putting the time and the effort into drafting up this resolution. I read it. It's excellent. Okay. It protects the entire Constitution. Okay. Both the National Constitution of America and the Michigan Constitution. And again, the gun rights, okay, were put in not to go hunting, okay, but to protect ourselves from an encroachment of government. And what we need to do is we need to stand strong. I talked to a lot of people in Macomb, okay, and everybody I talk to say that, again, it's not the guns that kill people, it's the people that kill, all right? They just use the guns. And again, as Joe mentioned, it isn't the law-abiding citizen that abuses that, okay? It's strictly the criminals that don't follow the laws. If you've ever bought a gun and you go through all the paperwork and all the background checks, you'll realize that, hey, you don't just walk in and buy a gun, all right? There's plenty of paperwork and documentation and proof that you go through. All right. So, again, I'd like you to really consider passing this resolution and give some comfort to the law-abiding citizens that want to protect themselves and their family. And I thank you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Paul. Staff, anyone else?
Chair, there's no one in the chat box. Anybody on the phone, you can press *6 to unmute yourself if you wish to speak.
I had a note that a Paul Driscoll. Is he on?
He just spoke.
Okay.
Mr. Hall, is it okay if I speak?
Thomas, your turn.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, board. I just, as a person who has spent the last 20 years of my life working with underprivileged teenagers in our county, one of the things that I can tell you is that access to things somehow usually spills over to our children. More access, easier access. As this marijuana legislation in our state has made marijuana more accessible to our everyday law-abiding citizens, it has also made it more accessible to the students in our program. We have had 8 kids expelled from public high schools in Macomb County in the last 4 months over marijuana infringements. I would hate to see the repercussions of what this does with firearms and our students in this county. The way the law is set up currently, any law-abiding citizen can carry a gun. The last thing you want to do is give over access to people and that spill over into our children. We don't want any gun accidents in our kids. We don't want them violating each other or violating themselves with these firearms. So I would ask the board to caution themselves to just think about how it will affect kids in our community, in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Staff, anyone else?
Yes, sir. My name is Robert Little.
You have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate the board taking up this issue today and your hard work and dedication to your positions. I'm speaking in favor of this resolution to approve the Second Amendment resolution. As someone who has lived in Macomb County for the past 30 plus years, again, I recognize that at a time when our populace is getting older and there are more people living independently, being able to protect oneself within your homes, et cetera, is extremely important. The gun laws that we do have in this country are followed almost verbatim across the board by people who own guns and have registered and taken care of their firearms, the members of various groups that understand and recognize the potential of what a firearm could actually bring. It is important that people recognize that the vast majority of crimes committed through various forms of gun violence are not being committed by people that are registered gun owners, but rather people who do not care in one way, shape, or form about the laws that are already on the books or laws of any sort. The vast majority of people in our country who favor the use of protection through guns or hunting or whatever they use, target practice, whatever it would be, are very, very responsible. I urge this board in your due diligence to approve the Second Amendment resolution for the County of Macomb. I thank you all for your time, and God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. Staff, do we have anyone else?
Chair, I believe that's it. Anybody remaining, if you can press *6. I'm sorry, it looks like we have Mary Hal-Rayford.
Mary, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm a resident of East Point and been here for a while in Macomb County. I am a legal registered gun owner. And I don't want to see the proliferation of guns on the streets, not just from homeowners. I keep mine locked. And most of the crimes that are committed by those who are not legal gun owners are those who have stolen them from the legal gun owners. So I'm having a difficult time trying to understand. I've heard several people say the founding fathers didn't have guns to hunt, which I don't understand because apparently there's a misunderstanding of history by some. So we're not hunting anymore. I believe everyone has the right to defend themselves, but I don't believe that we need to have just random cases or situations of people just being able to buy a gun whenever they want to. So I know people are going to do what they want to do, and it's unfortunate this become politicized instead of about saving lives, because that's what the issue should be about, saving lives, not about political issues. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mary. Staff, do we have anyone else on this?
Chair, oops, I'm sorry. Chair, we have Neil Taylor.
Neil, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up a couple of points to counter a few of the arguments that have been put forward about the amendment. First of all, most people aren't killed by criminals, by guns. Most deaths from guns are from suicides and accidental use of guns. What this committee should be looking at is accountability. If somebody's going to own a gun, which is their right to own a gun, nobody is arguing that, but you also have responsibility and accountability with that ownership. That seems to be forgotten when we start talking about, oh, the criminals won't break the law. Well, what about the child that finds the gun? Or what about the person that's considering hurting themselves finds the gun because it wasn't properly locked up? It's sitting in a drawer next to your bed waiting for that criminal that might show up. I have a feeling that we're missing the point, and the point should be, as said by the previous individual, it's about safety of our citizens. And if we really care about safety of our citizens, we would be concerned about accountability and responsibility of gun owners. Many gun owners, unfortunately, don't train with their guns. I'm a 40-year martial artist. I know what it is to defend oneself. I've taught it at multiple levels. And if you do not train with a gun regularly, you're not going to be any good at it. So it isn't even going to work for you. There's all sorts of statistics behind this, which I don't have the time to get into. But I believe that there's a misnomer out there, or a misbelief that somehow just owning a gun is going to protect you. Well, I think it will if you train with a gun. I think accountability and responsibility are things that need to be talked about, but not taking guns away, just be responsible. That's everything I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Who's got the choo-choo train going? Okay. Staff, do we have anybody else?
Chair, there's no one remaining in the chat box. Anyone left on the phone who still wishes to speak, you can press *6 and go ahead and speak.
Hearing none, we will close public participation and move on to item 6, department recommendations. Contract American Society of Employers, ASE, encourage excellent optimizing communication through influence training agreement, $2,500 per session. I need a motion, please.
Motion by Farrington.
Second.
Board. I have a motion by Commissioner Farrington, seconded by Commissioner Wallace. Any discussion on the motion? Julie? Commissioner Matuzak.
Got it. I'll be so happy when we have to stop finding the unmute button. That will make me very happy. I am curious about this contract, and we may want Mr. Cox to speak about it first. I don't know if you want the department head to speak about it before we ask questions, or you just want us to plow in.
I was looking for the mute. I think we'll have the department head speak to it first.
Thank you.
Is he on?
I am here, Commissioner Ha, yes.
Okay, Andrew, it's all yours.
Thank you, Commissioner, very much. And thank you all, ladies and gentlemen of the board, for having me today. We do have a training budget here in Human Resources and Labor Relations, which is for a countywide training program that we run. This training that we're partnering with ASE on is really the third leg of our diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So we have an introduction program that we run. And about 2 years ago, we thought, we've been doing the introduction. We need to take that next step. And we took that next step into something that we call navigating difficult conversations. We worked with a company named Elevate to handle that creation. And we really worked with them hand in glove to create that training. And I believe that several of you have been through that training with us, and we really appreciate that participation. We think that it's important for us as a county to not only be inclusive and consider everybody when we're looking for great staff, but then when staff join us, to make sure that we're telegraphing our expectations, We're telegraphing what it is, our verbiage that we use, all of those types of things that we as a county want to exhibit. We want to make sure that we're setting those expectations for our staff, not so that when you walk in, you have to guess, if I sit at a table with my arms crossed, is everybody going to think that I'm angry? Or is it because there's only about six motions I can really do with my arms without looking like a complete fool? So me having my arms crossed might just be the most comfortable thing for me to do. Doesn't mean that I'm closed off to the conversation. Doesn't mean that I'm judging what's going on. It's just there's a limited number of things I can do with my arms without flailing them around. This is really the next step to that training. We want to be able to work with our staff on, okay, we know what it is to be appreciating and to work to be inclusive. Then we want to talk about how we have some of those difficult conversations when they come up. Now, what do I do when I want to try to move my colleagues, when I want to try to push my colleagues without being forceful, judgmental, those types of things? If I'm not a supervisor, how can I help advance the organization without directory authority? So that's when we contracted with ASE, the American Society of Employers. We have asked them to put a training together. As you'll see, there's a project and a pilot that will first come to us so that we can review it, determine if it is what we are looking for. We've already been working with them to create this, but to really see if it is the next thing that we want for our staff to work through. And then from there, we open it up to multiple cohorts from 2021 through 2023. This actually, as a lump sum, grades out a little bit below where it's something that we have to bring to the Board of Commissioners. But after you start adding the participants and the materials, it goes up over that $30,000 threshold. So we thought it was important to bring this to you on the front end to make sure that we're being transparent and walking through this with you. So that's sort of an overview of it, Commissioner Matuzak. Please feel, if there's any particular questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Andrew. Commissioner Matuzak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I am totally in support of the goals of this project and totally want this to work and think it's important to take this third step. When I add up these costs, it comes to $207,187.50. That's a big amount of money. And while I appreciate that the initial outlay is $25,000, by the time I took 25 participants, which is the low end, times 53 sessions, which is the low end, and that comes to $132,500, plus the cost of materials is almost another $50,000. This is a huge expense. It has not been bid out. I think that those are important issues to me. This is a big expense we're taking on. Not that it isn't needed, not that it isn't desirable. This is a huge expense that has not been bid out. I don't know if this is the best group to do this sort of training. I don't know. I would just like you to speak to this. This is a big amount of money.
Yeah, Commissioner, I appreciate that. And we don't take that lightly at all. But when you consider with the calculations that you just did, can you give me the head count on those calculations?
Sure. I figured 25 participants. That was the low end of your bracket.
Yep.
I figured 53 sessions. That was also the low end of your bracket.
And so what's that number?
That number is $132,500.
No, how many people?
25 participants.
Times how many sessions?
53.
Okay, which comes out to what number?
$132,500. If each session
no,
is
I'm asking for the head count, Commissioner. I apologize. So I can do the math. So 25 times 53, did you say?
That was your low end of your sessions.
So we're talking about 1,325 of our employees will be going through this training. That's a large number of our employees going through a very in-depth training, which we find to be a very worthwhile expenditure. Because, when you throw out a number like $200,000. That's a lot of money, no question. But we think it's incredibly important for us to invest in our staff to make sure that we're doing this on the front end so that we can limit the liability on the back end. And when I think about 1,300 plus of our staff members going through this and learning skills that they can take with them back to their office, that's exactly what this office is supposed to be doing. And I
totally support the reason for doing it. I totally support that our staff needs in-depth training. I've done training of this kind. It takes a while. You really got to go deep. I'm questioning why we're spending this amount of money without a bid process.
Mm-hmm. And we have worked closely with ASE over the years, and we find them to be a very professional organization that's also Michigan-based. It's actually Tri-County based. So we have been using Elevate for years. I believe they're out of South Carolina. We'll continue to partner with them because we have a long track record of success with them. But we wanted to open it up to this organization, who we find to be a very professional and local organization to be utilizing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. Drew, I had the same question or similar. Was this contract bid out? Why or why not? I'm hearing that you're using them because you're familiar with them, but that's not a good enough reason, especially for the amount of money that's going to be spent. I would like to see this contract bid out, and I would encourage them to apply for it too. But I believe in equal opportunity, and this is not. My other question would be, how do you measure the success of this training? And you're spending this amount of money. What's the timeline, and what is the success rate, or what are you guys measuring?
Andrew?
So I guess I heard a couple of things that you would like this to be bid out. What's the measurement of success and the timeline? And so the timeline, I'm confused on that question.
The training, how long is this going to last?
So the proposal is for 3 years, and we would hope to continue that if we find that it's a successful training. A lot of what we do use for measurement of success is a survey after the training that we currently use for Elevate to see what people's feelings were on the training, how effective they thought it was, and if there are things that they're going to bring back to their workplace. I think it's difficult to say that a training has or has not precluded actions against the county into the future. I mean, you always have rogue actors, no matter how well you train people. You'll always have people who just do not act in an appropriate or inclusive fashion. So it's hard to say that, this has prevented actions, but I certainly believe that they have. But we really utilize our survey data that comes in after the trainings, Commissioner. And then 3 years and hopefully renewed if we find that it's a successful and effective training. I'm missing one. There were 3 questions. The third, it was just you want it to be bid out. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Zinner.
Hello, Andrew. The commissioners before me covered it pretty much. I really was concerned about the cost. And I don't get to work with the workers that do all the different things, all the activities in the county, of course. But everybody that I've interacted with are so they're so competent. They couldn't be more helpful. They're always nice. So I'm sure there's situations. I don't understand why people there isn't just the idea of being respectful, more verbally suggested, and if there's a situation with someone, talking to them and finding out what it is and solving the problem. And if the problem isn't solved, just say, well, we're writing them up 3 times. I don't know. It used to be different years ago. And I understand that there's verbiage and this and that, and people don't always understand. There's misunderstandings with things, but I mean, I've come across people who travel around the country and people who are in the county, and they are concerned about, they're afraid to say things, and you're saying this would cover that, but they're concerned about how people will take anything that they say. And I think a generality of respect and concern for the coworkers is, I think most people in Macomb County government are. And if they're not, then I think that should be addressed per person. That's what I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. I also will be glad when we don't have to find the mute button. Andrew, so from what you said, it sounds like each employee will only be attending one of these sessions because you were saying 25 times 53?
Yeah, and that's less than our full complement of employees, Commissioner. Yes.
Well, and that was going to be my next question. What percentage of Macomb County employees will the 1325 be?
That is about half of our employees, Commissioner.
And so how are we choosing which half needs training and which half doesn't?
That's a great question. They sort of self-select and sign up as availability comes up. And then, of course, as I mentioned to Commissioner Song, with the trainings, what we hope to do is continue on with those trainings so that we hit everybody eventually. But it is first come, first serve as the trainings open up.
Not to be judgmental, but I would think that possibly the people who need the training the most would be the ones who would think they don't need it. So when you say self-select, I question whether that's possibly the best method of choosing people to do the training.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. So I'm reading a question into that, if that's okay with you, and I may answer.
Certainly.
So I guess a dirty little secret is if somebody has been not living up to the standards that we expect of our employees, which happens from time to time, we may assign them to one of these trainings and we would make room for them in that, or we may even assign them to something more specific and direct if we needed to. But most of the time it is self-select and having people who want to participate. The other side of that coin I would volunteer is that the people who self-select and want to participate are possibly going to be those who are more advocates, spokespeople, megaphones for this type of training, and they might be able to go back to their workplace and assist their colleagues with what they've learned in the training, as opposed to somebody who might be closed off to it, and it's really not worth the money that we spend on it because they don't want to learn anything. It's sort of what I'm hearing from you as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. First, we can't just assume that all of our employees are respectful because the ones that we come across are respectful. We have had some employees that have exhibited extremely questionable behavior in the past, and we have faced lawsuits because of that. We may presently have some lawsuits on alleged questionable behavior that I don't know what has or has not happened. But what I do know is when an entity such as ours can show the extensive work we go through to train the employees, it does give us a certain amount of legal protection as compared to an entity that has done nothing to put their employees through sensitivity training of different kinds. So each and every time we do this, we're giving ourselves another level of legal protection with regard to some of the lawsuits. I don't know how many companies are out there, but I do know because of the situations that I've heard of, since I've been here, this is one of those things that I consider time is of the essence. So I'm going to support it, but suggest to Andrew perhaps he do some research to see how many companies are out there the next time around and possibly open it up. I think he would be open to doing that, but I'm going to support this today. Thank you, Chair.
And Commissioner, if I may as well, we are not asking for new money for this. We do have a dedicated training budget currently that we can support this these costs for this year, and we hope to continue to request that budget for years to come.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. McKinnon, I support this 100%. If this can save us one liability, one lawsuit, and I'd hate to go into court, as Commissioner Kleinfeld said, and the judge would ask, well, have you had training in this? Have you ever had your employees, have you ever encouraged your employees to take training? And if the answer was no, I think we might be in a whole world of trouble. So I agree, it's a lot of money. I think it's money well spent. And I think there's more than probably employees that need this type of training. The world is changing, and don't forget, I'm old school, and I think a lot of these employees that you have been around for a while, so this won't hurt them. If anything, it'll help us, and it would encourage them to take this training to see how things are going on today. So I support you 100%. Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Phil.
We are required to provide anti-harassment and anti-discrimination training, correct?
I would say that we, as Commissioner Romano just spoke of, it is an unwritten requirement, because if we don't, the liability increases significantly.
But we do at least offer those trainings, or are they under different names? How does that work?
Yeah, so we've got a policy that is anti-discrimination and anti-harassment. And then we've got a online training when people come on board to understand that policy. And then these are sort of a accelerator on those and kind of an add-on on those. Because I don't think that it helps our staff in the least to go through the policy, to read the policy, and to say that I've read the policy, answer one question about the policy. And then we can hold that up, again, as Commissioner Romano stated, to hold that up in court. While it might help us from a legal perspective, it doesn't really help us from an employment perspective. We want a workplace that's harmonious, working together, understanding that we have differences. So that's why we continue to try to grow, build, and diversify even these trainings that we have to offer more value for our employees.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Andrew, before we go second round, you did say you had worked with the ASE in the past, and this was in the county training budget. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Thank you. Second round, Commissioner Matuzak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I am fully in support of the purposes of this, and I would hope that we offer this training as a way not to protect us from lawsuits, but to actually encourage our employees to be inclusive and respect the diversity that is this county. That is really important to me. I will vote in favor of this. I am disappointed that this project was not bid out. This is a large amount of money that we're not bidding out. I appreciate that you have a good working relationship with these people. I appreciate that they are at least in our area. And I will support this because I fully think the county is in pretty serious need of this kind of diversity and inclusion training for our employees amongst each other and amongst the public that they meet. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think, Commissioner, you make great points. We don't do things just to prevent legal exposure. I think that's what I was just speaking with Commissioner Kraft about. We also want to make sure that these are valuable to our employees, which is why we don't simply roll out a training that walks our individual employees through the policy and then sends them on their way. We think this is a real value add, and I agree with you that that's what we need to be continuing to do.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, we have a motion and support to refer to,
Mr. Chair, I'm
yes,
sorry, maybe my button didn't, you can't see my button. Could I just ask another question?
sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Andrew, is there a policy or an expectation of a manager or assistant manager that within a certain time period, a year, 2 years, that they will privately speak with their employees and ask them how things are going, or is there an expectation of what they expect to accomplish in their next couple of years working for the government, working for Macomb County? Is there something like that done per employee?
You know, Commissioner, I guess that would be an operational question from department to department. If you're talking from a human resource perspective, we do have, or, you know, COVID has really messed up everything. But prior to COVID, we had a cohort of leaders that would go through a leadership training. I believe if I'm remembering correctly, we have 10 sessions. We take off July and August to give people a little bit of a summer break. But we have 10 sessions that cover everything from labor and employment law to, you know, some basic human resources to workers' compensation. I'm trying to think of the other. We have Alliance come in to do a training on storming, forming, norming, transforming, and performing. That's the stages of team development. So we did have a leadership and do have a leadership training that we send our managers through. That's a human resources expectation setting. But when you're talking about, you know, does the sheriff's department sit down with a new hire and talk about what their plan is for the next year and maybe a career plan, that would be an individual department by department question for operations. I hope I'm answering your question appropriately.
Well, not a new hire possibly, but the employees that we still have, to see where they are. I mean, are they good? Are there any situations? A one-on-one. I mean, it doesn't have to be a long conversation, just to see how they're doing. I mean,
It's like an annual appraisal, Andrew.
Maybe even 2 years. I'm just saying, you know, eyeball to eyeball. So if there's a situation or not a situation, you know, I'm good, I'm happy, or I'm not happy. There's a situation. I think that's a way to solve problems and make people happy, happy, happy. It's just some jobs do that. I don't know how many. I was just a question. Thank you so much.
It's a great question, and going to Commissioner Ha's statement of an annual appraisal. So let me visit on that very quickly. I know it's a little bit outside the scope, and I don't want to take everybody's time too long. I formerly worked for the school district in Centerline, a great place with great people, a lot of great staff. In public education, there is a requirement that everybody be evaluated every year. And what we found from a human resource perspective, and I think this is pretty universal across the school districts, is everybody is absolutely overachieving, killing it, doing great. And then next week, that principal, they are the worst employee that I've ever seen. I hate them. They need to go. I want them fired next week. And we would go into their personnel file and we would find glowing evaluation after glowing evaluation after glowing evaluation. So I say that a little bit of tongue in cheek. We don't do annual evaluations here for that reason. I think a lot of times people are hesitant to be really honest on those. So what we try to do is handle individuals and train them up so that they're doing those more than annually, that we're touching base with the people that we supervise on a very frequent basis and making those course corrections in real time, as opposed to waiting for that annual evaluation.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion and support to refer to full board. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-1 with Commissioner Kraft voting no.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Next item on the agenda is correspondence. I don't have any other than I did want to mention for those that haven't seen it, There was a great article in the Macomb Daily today about our new chief of staff. If you get a chance, please read it. Thank you. Next item is item 8, resolution 2021-6564, resolution in support of the Second Amendment of the Constitution. Motion, please.
Motion to pass resolution, Van Sickle.
Second, Zinner.
I have a motion by Commissioner Van Sickle, supported by Commissioner Zinner. Commissioner Van Sickle, would you like to speak on the resolution?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Chair. From listening to various things, there's apparently quite a bit of confusion about this resolution. This resolution is not changing any laws. This resolution is not granting or taking away anybody's rights on anything. This resolution is merely saying that we as the Macomb County Commissioners support the U.S. Constitution in its entirety with its resolution amendments and the Michigan Constitution. We've all heard of certain instances in other parts of the country where politicians have told their law enforcement agencies or whatnot to stand down or do this or do that, trying to make law from the bench, if you will. This is merely saying, this resolution merely says that we support the Constitution as it stands and all its amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. With all due respect, Commissioner Van Sickle, we took the oath of office and swore to uphold the Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Michigan when we took the oath of office. And by passing this resolution, you are undermining the responsibility of the sheriff and other branches of government and the U.S. Constitution. As some of the speakers said earlier, the vast majority of Americans support common sense gun laws that keep our families safe. And instead of passing dangerous resolutions with no impact whatsoever on state and local legislation, we as leaders need to focus on solutions to keep our families safe in Michigan. Last month on May 5th, we as a board passed a proclamation declaring the first Friday, this Friday in June, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This is essentially National Gun Violence Week. We should not be passing a resolution that's counterintuitive to what we passed last month. What will our constituents and Mrs. Leiden, whose daughter died in the middle of gunfire, think? I support the Second Amendment. I come from a family of hunters, and we're also gun owners, but I will not be supporting the content in this resolution. The U.S. Constitution decides what is and isn't in it. They set the parameters, and there is no legal enforcement from our board with this resolution. The Supreme Court will make the decision, and I and others must follow the law. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. I do wish that that is all that this resolution said, because I support the Second Amendment. I don't have any problem with the fact that gun owners have guns in their homes. I do support things that other people don't support. I would like to see everybody have to take gun safety classes, because contrary to popular belief, not everybody treats their firearm with respect. There are a lot of children that have died to show that. But I want to jump into what I jumped into with Commissioner Kraft the last time this was up, because it's the same resolution, and it was written with some very specific intent, and whoever wrote this put a lot of thought into it, but the people that submit it for approval all over the state and elsewhere haven't really looked into the depth of it the way I think the writer did. So first and foremost, my first question, Mr. Van Sickle, is, would you consider a bomb to be an arm with respect to the right to bear arms?
Veronica, I don't know if Commissioner Van Sickle heard you, but you broke up in the middle of the question. Would you repeat it, please?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Van Sickle, would you consider a bomb to be an arm with respect to the Second Amendment?
Had not thought of that. I'd have to think about that for a minute.
Okay.
But then there's also knives and clubs and quite a few other things that one could use as a weapon.
Yes, there are also rocket launchers and tanks. And we had an in-depth discussion the last time this same resolution was up in front of us. And at the time, Commissioner Kraft believed that all of those things are arms and we have a right to carry all of them. So that was the debate that we had the last time around. So with respect to the right to bear arms, and this, it isn't speaking specifically to guns, number one. And one of the individuals talked about regulated militia. If you're going to be equally armed as your government in today's world, which our framers couldn't have even imagined, then everybody has a right to an atom bomb. I want to point out that all three of the people that spoke in favor of this at the hearing of the public said law-abiding citizens follow the laws with related to guns. But this particular resolution is against all of those laws that are related to guns, because it's against any infringement on any law-abiding citizen's right to bear arms. So, for instance, if we have rules about, we have a law about you can't take a gun into a bank or a courthouse. You can't take arms. So if I strapped a bomb to my chest and I walked into a courthouse, according to this resolution, we would have to defund the sheriff's department if they attempted to respond to that. We would have to defund them accordingly, because this resolution goes on to say that we will not support, there shouldn't be a comma behind support, but we will not support resources, employees, agencies, buildings, detention centers, contractors for the purpose of enforcing any law that restricts the rights of law-abiding citizens. Any law that has already been deemed unconstitutional, our law enforcement officers cannot uphold that law. It's already been deemed unconstitutional. So this resolution is specifically speaking to the laws that have either not yet been deemed unconstitutional or have been deemed constitutional. And it's saying, we as a board, our position is, we don't care what the courts have said or the legislature or the federal government. We're deeming them all unconstitutional. Every time I read this, and I've read it about 4 times because it gets thrown at us every once in a while. Well, I've read it more than 4 times because I think I read it like 5 times when Commissioner Kraft put it forward. Every single time I read it, I come across something else in it that I'm like, boy, they knew what they were doing when they wrote it. I could absolutely see them trying to use this in a legal setting to say, hey, I did this in Macomb County, and the Macomb County Board of Commissioners said we were a sanctuary county. Now, it might not stand the test of a lawsuit, but I also could see us being pressured to defund detention centers or things like that if an individual is arrested on a gun charge when they were not following the existing laws. Because we can't have a resolution that we say none of those laws are constitutional and we support not following any of them. So I just want everybody to think about that. If you want to do it, if you actually want to write a Second Amendment one that is open to reasonable restrictions, I'd be happy to support it. I don't have any problem with anybody with guns in their homes. And the last thing is, nobody in Macomb County has ever tried to take anybody's guns away. I don't know why this comes up over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Matuzak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With all due respect to Mr. Van Sickle, the resolves here are not about supporting the Constitution. They're about taking specific actions. I find this resolution, frankly, to be anti-democratic, and I mean that with the small d, and frankly, un-American. We are a country that believes in laws. We have a constitution. If you go back to basic government, we have a legislative, executive, and judicial branches of a government that we all agree to, that we are part of as county commissioners. So if a voter votes for somebody and they go and work with their colleagues and comes up with a law that you don't like, you can choose not to elect them the next time they stand for election, or you could recall them. And nothing is unconstitutional until the courts, the third branch of government, say it's unconstitutional. Nowhere in any reasonable society, American society in particular, do we give the sheriff and the prosecuting attorney the option to choose which laws they're going to enforce or not enforce. If a law is unconstitutional, it's thrown out and it is not enforced. If a law is constitutional, we don't let the sheriff decide, oh, let's enforce this one, let's not enforce that one. That is antithetical to the American system. We either believe in this system and in voters and electing people to office. We believe that judges will make good decisions. And that is what I believe. I'm definitely a small d person, Democrat, and I am definitely a supporter of the U.S. Constitution. And this resolution does not say that. I support the Second Amendment. I come from gun families. I'm up north. I can dress a deer with the best of them. But I believe that we do not give the sheriff, the prosecuting attorney, or ourselves the choice about enforcing rules or regulations. That to me is just absurd. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to say that I too support the U.S. Constitution. We are a military family. And I also support reading these resolutions very thoroughly. So when you first read over it, it may seem easy to comprehend, pretty simple. But when you really read into it, I mean, I have to completely agree with Veronica. When you break things down, it's just giving, I mean, you can range, what are bearing arms? I mean, it goes beyond guns, and no one is trying to take anyone's guns away. I'm not, but this should be, I'm not supporting this. It should be, if someone wants to rewrite this and bring it back, then that's something that can be discussed, in my opinion. I know everyone has their own view on this, and that's completely fine. That's how we work. But this, how it is written, is not, I don't think it's right. And it definitely does. It's saying it supports the Constitution, but I do not think it does after reading this. And so that's all I have to say. And I hope you all have really read through this before we vote.
Thank you. On the second round, Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. And let me just reiterate that we as a board have no right to declare or tell what the sheriff or prosecutor does or doesn't. And I specifically want to read this statement from the resolution that I have conflicted feelings about. This board will not support resources, employees, agencies, contractors, buildings, detention centers, or offices for the purpose of encoring any law that restricts the rights of any law-abiding citizen affirmed by the Second Amendment. I think this is a very bold statement, and I refuse to be associated with this resolution. So I would urge my colleagues to also not support this. But I am open to any commissioners wanting to rewrite it so that it does better align with supporting the Second Amendment. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further speakers, we have a motion and support to refer it to full board. Please vote.
That motion passes 7-6 with Commissioners Kleinfeld, Haw, Wallace, Song, Matuzik, and Nard voting no.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is proclamations. A proclamation commending Karen Zanell for her dedicated service to the Macomb County Public Works Office. Chairman Brown. Chairman,
thank you,
are you
Mr.
there?
Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Karen Janelle is someone I've worked with a very long time, for many, many years. She's a astute, great administrator, and something that I clearly support and encourage us all to vote for this proclamation.
Thank you. I need a motion to refer to.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Support from Kraft.
Chairman Brown makes the motion, supported by Commissioner Kraft, to refer to full board. All in favor, please vote. Or I'm sorry, just please vote.
Well, I actually requested to speak, but
You did on the details?
yes, I did.
Okay, well, go ahead because I can't get the details up.
Okay. I absolutely adore Karen. And I'm going to support this, but I want to caution commissioners going down the road. We're honoring somebody that's been here for 4 years, and we have a lot of employees that put in 30 years that we don't honor. And we have our own employees in our office that we may or may not honor. And if we do honor them with a resolution, are we treating them differently than employees in other departments? Usually when we do this, it's a department head or an assistant department head that has been here for decades. It's just unusual to do it for somebody that's only been here for 4 years. And I just don't want to send a bad message to the other employees. I'm going to support this, but I would ask that we think about it in the future, because if we're going to do that, then we have to start doing them for everybody. And I don't know that that's a good idea. Thank you.
Well, thank you for raising that subject. I was going to bring it up under new business, but I'll bring it up now. We had talked previously, our group, on rewriting our bylaws. So we're going to take a look at both resolutions and proclamations moving forward. So thank you for bringing that up. We have Commissioner Brown.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you just said what I was going to say. Commissioner Kleinfeld raises a good point, and we're going to address that starting in July. So we'll go through and address these issues. But Karen's been a personal friend of mine for almost over 20 years, and she's been working hand in hand with elected officials at all levels of government in this county to make this county a better place. Through Congresswoman, then Secretary of State Candace Miller, then our entire term in Congress with Candace Miller as a member of Congress, and now in public works. So she may have only been an employee a short time, but she's been working for the people of this county for a very long, long time, and is definitely worthy of recognition of this board, as we've recognized many other people from the community that have done good things for the community. So I might make no apologies, but I understand the issues, and we can address this going forward. But she brought a lot of good to this county that was worked on her behalf that wasn't seen by many. So thank you.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Kraft twice.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Is Karen going to be on full board? If she is, I'll save my comments until she's here. Anybody know?
Well, once we pass the proclamation, then we'll know.
I'll do it at full board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion and support to refer this to full board. Please vote. Yep, that's my phone.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item is a proclamation honoring Officer Vikas Vigi as the 2021 Michigan Department of Correction Officer of the Year. Commissioner Sabatini, did you want to speak to that before? Well, let me get a motion.
Chair.
Let me get a motion and support to refer to full board.
I'll make that motion, Chair.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner Sabatini, supported by Commissioner Nard. It's all yours, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. Officer Ridge he's not present here today, and we're going to present this to him at a future full board meeting. But obviously, I'm not going to read the proclamation now. I can read it at a later date, but just would like your support of this. He's a constituent of mine, and as the proclamation says, it's full in detail of what he's done for his community and the Officer of the Year award that's been declared to him. So just like your support for this, and we'll present it at a later date. Thank you, Chair.
Seeing no speakers, we have a motion support to refer to full board. All, please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item is new business. Any commissioner having new business?
I do, Chair. It's Veronica.
Please go.
Thank you. Just two things. At one point, we actually had a limit on the number of proclamations that each commissioner could do because of the cost of framing. I understand we have different frames now, so I don't know where that rule stands anymore. With respect to the bylaws, I cannot make next month's meeting. I have always been in Montana every year, because when GM shuts down, I've always been in Montana at the beginning of July, and we didn't used to have meetings during that time. I would hope that all these changes that are going to take place to the bylaws don't get finalized at a meeting that I can't attend. Thank you, Chair.
They're going to come to my committee, and I wouldn't think of approving anything until you can attend. How's that?
Thank you.
Anybody else under new business? Seeing none.
Commissioner Zinner.
Commissioner Zinner.
Yeah, my little thing didn't come to you. When we did the volunteers, my volunteer Susan Keene wrote a thank you to me and to all the workers at the board or the staff. She met Courtney. Courtney is the one who took our picture, as I'm sure she did all of yours. And she thanked everybody for putting together the plaque, and how nice well, she met Courtney, of course, and how nice everybody must have been. And she really appreciated everything. So I just wanted everybody to know Susan Keene from Harrison Township was very thankful for everything.
Thank you. And thank you for that. Anyone else under new business?
Commissioner Kraft.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just once. But I do want to thank Courtney on our staff for all of her hard work. I know this is her second term with us, and it has been fantastic having you on staff. Courtney, you've done a great job, and good luck to you in all your future endeavors. We will miss you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now, that's the sentiments I think of all of us, and I greatly appreciate your statement. Anybody else on their new business? Hearing none.
Commissioner Hall, we have Commissioner Nard on the list.
Commissioner Nard.
Yes, I was trying to hit that mute button. I just wanted to invite everybody out to the Centerline Independence Festival, which starts Friday, June 4th, 5th, and 6th And then we're going to have in Warren the Cruising 53 on Saturday, June 5th. I believe everything starts like at 10 a.m. in the morning. Just wanted to invite everybody down if you're out and about.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation. Anybody else under new business? Staff, is there anybody?
Not under new business, no.
Thank you. Next is our second public participation. It's an opportunity to talk on any items. For those planning to speak, please be advised, according to the Rule 21, personal attacks, coarse and derogatory language, cursing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such language will be asked to be removed from the meeting. Staff, do we have anybody under public participation?
Chair, we have Carmi Finn.
Carmi Finn, you have the floor. It's *6 to unmute.
Sorry. Turn your sound down. I would just like to go back to the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution just for a moment. A couple of commenters talked about gun ownership and how it's not important that it's for deer hunting anymore. What they're really trying to protect is their right to bear arms to use against their government. Just some food for thought here. You folks are the government. So, just bear that in mind, that their comments kind of tell you a little bit more about why they want that resolution passed, rather than just to support the Second Amendment. Now, the other thing is their comments kind of make it clear that if this resolution is passed, it will definitely complicate the lives of law enforcement officers, because their whole point in wanting this resolution passed is to override any existing laws. Now, even if you have law enforcement that obviously is not going to ignore the Constitution and the state of Michigan laws and the regulations that their city has imposed, it's going to create chaos and misunderstandings and divisiveness, and it can't serve any good purpose. There is no further need to protect the Second Amendment than the Constitution as it has existed since the founders framed it. So to pass this is just muddying the waters, and I think that's the intent of the writers of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, anyone else?
Clear. Next, we have Pamela Lidline.
Pamela, please. You have the floor.
Yes, I also would like to speak to that same motion about the Second Amendment sanctuary county situation. I would just ask that those of you who voted in favor of putting it to the full board, the 7 of you that did, that you take the advice of your fellow commissioners and read that document carefully and read between the lines what it does mean to our county as far as protecting the safety of your citizens. I do not own a gun, but I don't care if others do. If that's what they need to protect themselves in their own home, that's definitely within the rights of under the Second Amendment. But it doesn't take away the rights of other people to feel safe in their own home, or safe on the expressway, or safe out in public, or a person who is a victim of domestic violence to feel safe in their own home. There are laws that are there to protect people and keep them safe, not to take their other people guns away that are law abiding, as was stated. Those people have the right under the Second Amendment. But I don't think that's the intent of this resolution. To me, the intent is to limit the laws that have already been passed and are found to be constitutional. Like I said before, it's not the board's duty to determine constitutional or unconstitutional laws in our country. That's the Supreme Court of the United States. Thank you.
Next, we have Joel Rutherford.
Thank you again, Committee Chair Hall. Just briefly, I really hope the commissioners reread this, the resolution before it goes to the full county commissioner board, just because it's something, it saddens me. It really does. I spent 39 years in government service, and my idea was to uphold the Constitution. And I see things like this. This isn't about upholding the Constitution. This is just about people that, like someone said earlier, to muddy the waters, to make things difficult for law enforcement. I don't see anything about, banning armor-piercing bullets. That certainly would help law enforcement, or extended magazine clips, things like that. But secondly, what I want to mention is this is the Government Oversight Committee. One of the things that's bothered me is the last employment information I saw was from 2017. The lack of Black representation in county government is pathetic. I would like this committee to take a look at that and see. Most, it seems, of Black employees, and I would imagine most employees of color, seem to be in janitorial, food service. What's the percentage of Black employees that you have in management? Say from the county executives branch all the way down. That's what I'd like to see, because I'm not seeing that, at least from the like I said, the last information I saw is from 2017. Has it changed that much? If there's going to be oversight, let's see some fairness in this county for everybody, because there's always this talk about one Macomb. Well, that one Macomb seems to be everybody other than people of color at this point when it comes to government service. And that's something that I would like to see this committee look into. Thank you.
Staff, anyone else?
Chair, we don't have anyone in the chat box. If there's anyone else on the phone, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Anyone else on the phone? Hearing none, we will close public participation. Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
I heard a motion and support from about 14 people. All in favor, please vote. Have a good night, everybody. Patient in the meeting for all those that called in. Take care.
Good night.
Good
God
night.
bless.